I am the Deputy Director for Prevention and Community Support. We are the section of Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services charged with promoting primary and secondary child abuse prevention, and we also have a couple of adolescent pregnancy prevention federal grants that we oversee in our section. Next slide. So what we'll be talking about today is partnering with parents and what that means for statewide organizations such as ours, and also for community-based organizations such as many of you represent. So first, before we get started, I would just I'm just curious if folks could type into the chat if you actively partner with parents in your organization, and if you do, what are some of the things that you partner with parents on? So if you want to go ahead and just type that into the chat, we'll look those over as they come in. So what we wanted to talk about today is really partnering with parents in a more active way. So meaning that you're not partnering with parents just to check a box and to say, oh, I've got a couple of parents sitting on my advisory board, or every now and again I send a document to parents for them to review, and that's how I partner with parents. But how are you really actively partnering with parents and making sure that they're providing you genuine input, that you're soliciting their input and their feedback, that you have them at all of the decision making tables. And so that is active parent partnership. So we're going to share a little bit today about some examples of how we have done that. And we have one of our parents here to help support us. So a few years back, we the Prevention and Community Support at Georgia's DFACs, we are involved with or fund or are at the table of many statewide initiatives, including Strengthening Families Georgia, which we'll be talking about later. And many of these initiatives that we're involved with wanted to have a parent voice, wanted to have parents included in those initiatives. And so rather than each of these separate initiatives setting up a parent advisory council, we thought it would be helpful if we did that at the state level through DFACs. And so we established our Georgia Parent Advisory Council, which we will hear more about from our other presenters. So that's one example of how we have actively engaged in parent partnership. We also, as we developed the state's child abuse and neglect prevention plan, we actively solicited parent and caregiver voice into the development of those plans. So in 2019, when we went around the state engaging community members in the development of the plan, we asked that parents be at the table. We actually had a separate 2-hour session to get input just from parents and caregivers. We had a survey that went out. And so there were a variety of ways that we included parents in the development of the plan. And then we've also included parents in the implementation of the state plan and the regional plans. And I know Samantha is going to be talking a little more about that when she talks later. And then we also have made sure in all of the communications efforts that our section puts together. So we have a website, belongingforhope.org, where we have solicited parent input, parent feedback. We are working right now actually on a parent mobile website that will put out parenting tips. And we've included the parents in our Parent Advisory Council in providing input and feedback on the development of that resource. I am also on the Children's Trust Fund Alliance board, and I am the co-chair of the communications committee. And so we developed, the Children's Trust Fund developed a communications checklist that prevention providers can utilize to make sure that they are providing the most impactful communications around child abuse and neglect prevention. I'll drop the link to that checklist in the chat after I'm done speaking. And that checklist actually has a whole section that talks about including parent and caregiver voice in the development of all of your communications materials. And then the final thing is that we offered trainings to parents to develop and promote parent leadership. And so those are also ways in which we, along with Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, help to promote parent leadership. Okay, next slide, Soli. As I mentioned, and you'll have to click through again, sorry about all these clicks. As I mentioned, we included parents in the development of the state's Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Plan. That was developed in partnership between us, the Prevention and Community Support Section, and Georgia's Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, I'm sorry. And so as I mentioned already, the parents were brought to the table in the development of the plan, and they are encouraged to be participating in their regional implementation. Samantha actually is represented on 2 different regional plans, and many of our parents are also represented in their regional plans, and we encourage the regions to include parents and caregivers in their implementation of their plans, whether they're our parent advisory council members or not. Next slide. Another way that we have encouraged parents and caregivers to be involved is once the state Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Plan was launched, we developed, in partnership with Inclusive Conversations, which used to be known as Civic Dinners, we developed a series of conversations that are related back to the 6 objectives of the Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Plan. And these conversations can be had in person, in a small group, in the back of a restaurant somewhere, or they can be in your home, or they can be in an office, or they can be virtual. So you can do them through Zoom, or Inclusive Conversations actually has their own virtual platform that you can utilize. And so we encourage parents and caregivers to either attend, or even better, to host either one or a series of these conversations. And the input that is solicited through participation in these conversations comes back to us and helps us inform how we are implementing the plan. Next slide. You'll be hearing later today from Dr. Dana Susskind. So, and she will be talking about her book, Parent Nation. We have done a couple events through Georgia Reads, where we have talked about the Parent Nation book, and parents have been very involved. We selected this book actually because it talks about the need for parents to come together and work with their communities to promote parent and caregiver friendly policies. And so you'll be hearing all about this afternoon, so I won't spend much time, but you can obviously go to that tiny URL to learn more. And next slide. So I mentioned already the Belonging for Hope microsite. On the microsite, we have a variety of roles and actions that people can play in order to promote child and family well-being in our state and to create nurturing communities. And so one of the roles that folks can play is to be a connected parent leader. And so there are some actions that are listed on the website that also allow you to explore other ways to become involved as a parent or caregiver. So please go to visit that website, and we'll drop it in the chat, belongingforhope.org. Next slide. There are also some national ways to become involved that many of our parents here in Georgia are represented. There is, the Alliance also has a birth parent national network that is available to anyone that's a parent or caregiver that wants to become involved. We will also drop the link to that in the chat. And so they have, this started with the pandemic, but it has continued, and it's just a great time to touch base. They have what they call caring conversations on Monday afternoons at 1 o'clock. It's every week. You can go once every week, or you can go, just check in when you have time. But it's open to all parents to participate, and it's just a way to share with other parents from all across the country of what is happening in your life, and how you can gain some resources from what's happening. And next slide. So the Alliance also coordinates a birth and foster parent partnership, which we have a couple of members of our Parent Advisory Council who are also represented on the BFPP. And so that is sponsored by Casey Family Programs, and it's promoting the partnership between birth parents and foster parents. So many times, when a child is removed from their home and placed in a foster parent situation, there can be some discord there. There can be some strife between the birth parent and the foster parent, and this organization, suggests ways to build that relationship to make it easier for both parents, and also to make it ultimately easier for the child who's involved in that situation. So a few of our Parent Advisory Council members are actually on the BFPP, and we also do frequent webinars or workshops talking specifically about how to develop a strong relationship between the birth parent and the foster parent. And so we will have some additional presentations at the Child Welfare Summit and some other places where we'll be talking about that. And I believe that is all for my slides, and I am going to turn it. Can you go one more slide, Soli? There, yes. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay Dale, who is our staff liaison for the Parent Advisory Council.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Lindsay Dale, and I am a program specialist with prevention and community support section at Georgia GA-PAC. I work with Deborah, and I'm also, as she mentioned, the lead for the Georgia Parent Advisory Council. So this is a photo from our council meeting in Augusta last month. It was our first in-person meeting since October 2019, due to obvious reasons, due to COVID. You can go to the next slide slowly. So the Georgia Parent Advisory Council was created in early 2019. Our very first council meeting took place in June 2019. We actually began, I believe it was maybe February of 2019. We developed a planning committee, which included 2 parents who now serve on the council. So the staff role in those beginning stages of developing a parent advisory council is to maintain a safe container for growth and learning together. So at a program level, parent leadership activities shift to partnering with parents when they're acknowledged as experts and what is needed for their family. So instead of asking, what can I provide to create positive outcomes for your family? That shift in thinking is, what can we do together that creates positive outcomes for you and your family? All right, so next slide, please. Okay, so here are a few points here that we believe about parent leadership and that helped us in developing our own parent advisory council. So parents are central to family support models and they should be encouraged to develop their potential by fostering parents in this role of expert and leader on their families. Families benefit from improved self-worth and they become better advocates for their needs. And then programs will benefit from being more responsive and accountable to the families they serve. So parent leadership is fostered on a meaningful level when parents are given the opportunity to gain knowledge and skills to help function in leadership roles and represent that parent voice. And so that helps shape the direction of their families, programs, and our communities. And then finally, parent leadership is achieved when parents and staff build partnerships based upon mutual respect and shared responsibility. Next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the role of the Georgia Parent Advisory Council and in relation to the Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services. So the role of the GA-PAC is to advise the Division of Family and Children's Services, and specifically our section, Prevention and Community Support, about making changes to child welfare services and systems, particularly prevention programming. So the GA-PAC, we use it as a sounding board for decisions, ideas, and questions that shape the future of our section, Prevention and Community Support, as well as the division. So parental involvement in decision-making is key to having policies and programs that support family strengths and needs with the goal to improve outcomes for children and families. So we initially planned to only recruit birth parents and those that had used prevention services in their communities. But GA-PAC's leadership at the time wanted us to expand on that idea to include any type of family. That would be families with GA-PAC's involvement, adoptive parents, foster parents, kin caregivers. And so we concluded that it was important to have those different perspectives to improve prevention and those prevention services in Georgia. And so that is what we have. We have a very diverse group that includes all of those, maybe except for kin caregivers, which we're still looking for. Okay. Next slide, thank you. So to continue to talk about, back one more, I'm sorry. Thanks. So to just talk a little bit more about the role. So Parent Advisory Council members, they serve as our strategic partners. It includes a select group of parents from across the state. They have a range of expertise and personal experiences. Some have experience in the child welfare system or with prevention programming. So as I mentioned before, the PAC fosters that parent leadership development and it models the value of parent engagement. And then finally, for this slide, the GA-PAC is designed to ensure that there are strong parent voices in shaping programs, services, and strategies that result in better outcomes for children and families in Georgia. That is our goal. Okay, next slide. Okay, and so this is our current Georgia Parent Advisory Council. We have representation in 12 of the 14 GA-PAC regions. We are still recruiting for regions 8 and 9. And like I mentioned before, we would love to have a kin caregiver join our group or a father. And we do have, for some of the metro regions, we do have more than one Parent Advisory Council member. But that would just be for the metro areas with a much larger population. All right, next slide. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about logistics and recruiting. So this picture here, this is from, I believe, back in 2019. This is a meeting with the Children's Bureau Associate Commissioner at the time, Jerry Milner. So our parents got to attend this and present along with them. Okay. So we hold 2 face-to-face meetings per year and 4 virtual meetings per year. Let's see, like I mentioned before, we held our first in-person meeting since the start of the pandemic last month. It was very nice to be together again. We took a lot of pictures, which if you go to our website, you'll be able to see some of those. So we want council members to know that their expertise as parents is valued. So we do provide honorariums, childcare, and cover transportation and lodging costs for in-person meetings. We have a whole list that we give out to families, or to the parent advisory council members, with a list of those honorariums. Let's see. So our members are recruited by GA-PAC partners, GA-PAC members, and other prevention partners. There is an application to join. There's an online and a paper version. You can just reach out to me if you needed that paper version. But there's a link that we send out with the online application. It's through a Google Forms document. And then we hold informal interviews by phone. Like I mentioned before, we are recruiting new members still for regions 8 and 9. The goal is to have at least one member per region. And then just to note, so if in recovery, parents and caregivers interested in joining the council should be in recovery for at least 18 months. And then with prior GA-PAC involvement, they should have their case closed for at least 8 to 12 months. Okay. And I think that's actually it for my slides. Yep, here's our contact information. You can reach directly to me or reach out directly to me, and I can answer any questions you have about the PAC, send you any of our documents if you're interested in looking at some of those initial development documents. I'm happy to send out anything. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing that invaluable information, Deborah and Lindsay. Mabuhay, welcome. Umaga Muganda, good morning. My name is Soledad Campidado Tillman. I'm the Strengthening Families Georgia State Program Coordinator for Prevent Child Abuse Georgia. And as many of you are aware, parents and caregivers are the first teachers of our children. We are the key stakeholders for our families and throughout all of our communities as well. So I'm just going to give you a little background information in case you're not familiar with Strengthening Families Georgia and about the framework that we implement throughout our programs and communities. So in 2001, the Center for the Study of Social Policy, better known as CSSP, began studying the role that early child care and education programs nationwide could play in strengthening families and preventing abuse and neglect. So for the first time, they linked research about preventing child abuse and neglect with similar knowledge about quality early care and education. So they developed a new model and approach to preventing child abuse and neglect called Strengthening Families. Instead of focusing on family and community risk factors, the Strengthening Families model focuses on strengths and protective factors. So it identifies 5 protective factors, which I will go into detail briefly, that when present and strong in families helps prevent child abuse and neglect, as well as supporting children's optimal healthy growth and development. And I also want to share that the Center for the Study of Social Policy also emphasizes the importance of incorporating father involvement and family serving programs and organizations. And I really want to make sure that we address that because that's really critical. Strengthening Families Georgia encourages organizations to become more inclusive and welcoming and fosters welcoming and fostering fathers and male caregivers as well. So that's a critical piece. With Strengthening Families, we believe the future of Strengthening Families is in creating a new normal for child and family serving organizations and systems. As a result, child and family serving organizations see their work as building and promoting protective factors to reduce the potential for child maltreatment. So this is accomplished by building resilience and reducing the impact of traumatic events when they occur, and creating the best possible environment for the development of children and youth. So Strengthening Families Georgia represents a multidisciplinary partnership of nearly 50 national, state, local, public, private organizations dedicated to embedding the 5 protective factors, which are strength-based as well, into services and supports for children and their families. And Strengthening Families Georgia is housed at Prevent Child Abuse Georgia, located here within the School of Public Health at Georgia State University. So I wanted to go over these briefly in case some of you are not familiar with the 5 protective factors. Again, as I mentioned before, the 5 protective factors are what helps children and families thrive despite whatever risk factors they might face. And they help build family strengths as well. So the 5 key protective factors are parental resilience, the ability to recover from difficult times and often to be strengthened or even transformed by those challenges. The knowledge of child development, understanding developmental milestones, and providing experience to promote growth are essential for every child and parent. A social and emotional competence of children, understanding what is age appropriate is key for caregivers engaging with their children and setting realistic expectations as well. And social connections. I'm going to be talking about these in a little bit, but the community cafes offer a place for caregivers to find support and connect with each other. If you're in a parent or caregiver group or community organization, you would like to meet other parents or caregivers in your area, then a community cafe would be a great opportunity for you. Concrete support in times of need. Find Help Georgia is a resource for parents, caregivers, family servant organizations, and communities to find concrete support in their area. You can go to www.findhelpga.org. And just so you know, we will have a slide with this information later. I'm just wanted to cover this because it is a concrete support. Also 1-800-244-5327, but we will provide that information in a little bit as well. So I'm going to just go a little more in depth with each of these protective factors before I share about the community cafes. Resilience is the ability to manage and bounce back from all types of challenges that emerge in every family's life. It means finding ways to manage stress, solve problems, building and sustaining trusting relationships, including relationships with their own child, and knowing how to seek help. And I'm sure, we can all agree, that all of us struggled, to stay resilient, especially since the onset of the recent pandemic, right? This unprecedented traumatic event made a global impact, and families, communities all over the world really struggled, to maintain their resilience. So by affirming your own resilience, most importantly, you can learn so much more about your own strength and move forward, And so in a moment, I will share how community cafes and the protective factors together help to support and empower parents and caregivers so they can, build on their own resilience as well. So early childhood is a period of both great opportunity and vulnerability. Early childhood experiences set the stage for later health, well-being, and learning. And in recent years, a growing body of research, has demonstrated the strong link between young children's social and emotional understanding and their success in school, their language skills, and developing friendships as well. And additionally, these successes are essential for mental health. And these pieces of social and emotional understanding do not change naturally, but are developed through relationships with a consistent, caring, and focused primary caregiver. So information on child development can come from many sources, including family members, close friends, your pediatricians, parent education classes, and the internet. And having knowledge of child development at each age can help set appropriate expectations for a child's behavior. Help parents and caregivers understand that their child's behavior as part of their overall development. For example, helping parents or caregivers understand that intense infant crying is a phase that will pass, for those new parents, those of us who've been there, being a new parent can be very challenging and stressful, right? And, the stubborn and independent behavior in toddlers is normal as they develop their own, his or her independence. Talk about teachable moments for caregivers and different ways of responding to their children. And some everyday actions you can take to build knowledge of child development and caregivers is to provide information or classes to parents on child development, sharing observations with parents and caregivers about the children's strengths, and encouraging parents to make their own observations about the child's development and ask questions when needed. So again, meeting basic economic needs like food, shelter, clothing, and healthcare are essential for families to thrive. Likewise, when families deal with a crisis, such as domestic violence, mental illness, or substance abuse, basic services and supports need to be in place to provide stability, treatment, and help for family members who are going through a crisis. Parents need to know that they have support, non-judgmental support, right, and encouragement, and to know, where they can turn in times of need. And again, as I mentioned before, after the onset of the pandemic, we all need concrete support in times of need. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It is okay to ask for help. Parents, caregivers, and families, still are struggling and need support. Even prior to the pandemic, families needed support. And I think it's important to be mindful that times of need don't occur, in families, only occur in families living in poverty, right? All families and all communities have times of need, whether it's the birth of a child, health problems, mental illness, death in the family, substance abuse, domestic violence can happen in any family. And remember, parents who are struggling to meet basic needs for their families will not be able to focus on less immediate concerns like positive discipline and enhancing their child's development. And soon I will expand on how community cafes were and still are concrete support for families and caregivers as well. So to tie it all in, if you're wondering why I was going through those pieces, I think it was important to kind of connect the dots and put those puzzle pieces together. So Strengthening Families Georgia utilizes the 5 protective factors to support and empower families and parents. Community cafes are a prime example of how the 5 protective factors connect parents and caregivers. So essentially, to kind of illustrate it a little bit for you, since we're not actually utilizing one today, or implementing one today. If you kind of go back in time, I don't know if you remember, I'm old school, so if you think about maybe a time when maybe your aunties or some of the women in the neighborhood or some of your mom's good friends maybe came over, right? And they talked in the kitchen. Maybe they were cooking and they were, having fellowship and, they were sharing about their challenges and struggles and their joys as well. So think of that as a community cafe as having like a big, not too big, but kind of like an intimate conversation with different people from different backgrounds, but people that, we all share things, as families, and those of us who are taking care of our children, whether it's our own children or, families within the communities that we serve. So essentially, the community cafe offers the opportunity, whether in person or virtually, where parents and caregivers can come together. And we do talk about the 5 protective factors. We might focus on one particular protective factor during the community cafe. And then also it's a safe, space for people to share, right? That's essentially what it is. I believe it was maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was one of our speakers yesterday that spoke about listening, how important that listening piece is, right? That's really, really important for people to have someone that can just listen to them, hear them vent, and also for people to able to share their challenges and their strengths as well. So again, community cafes offer a safe space for parents and caregivers to listen, share, vent, receive, and provide support for others in a safe space. Cafes also extend an opportunity for parents and caregivers to serve in a leadership role, which I think is really important. Community cafe parent leaders feel empowered and garner higher self-esteem as a result. By supporting and encouraging other caregivers helps build stronger communities, hence be the village, right? That's the whole theme of our conference and of Prevent Child Abuse Georgia. So just a quick background of the origin of parent and community cafes. The community cafe follows the World Cafe model. It was an innovative yet simple method for hosting conversations about questions that matter. In 2007, the Parent Cafe process was developed by parent leaders from Strengthening Families Illinois to educate families on the Strengthening Families protective factors, a strength-based system for parents and caregivers that helps keep children safe and families strong as well. So parent community cafes are modeled after the approach documented in the book, The World Cafe Book, Shaping Our Futures Through Conversations That Matter, authored by Juanita Brown with David Isaacs. So why? Why supporting and working with parents and caregivers is critical. Parents and caregivers play a critical role as their child's first and most important teachers, right? The vast amount of information and quality resources available for parents today can be overwhelming for parents, especially new parents. Parents and caregivers involved in cafes recognize and build upon their own strengths, and talents. Meaningful conversation around shared issues can provide an opportunity for building supportive communities and a key contributing factor of resiliency in children as well. Untapped strengths and gifts in families and communities can be engaged to enhance child and adult learning as well. The community cafe approach offers an environment conducive to relationship and network building and community building. So, after the onset of the pandemic, the need to embed the 5 protective factors became even more evident and critical. Strengthening Families Georgia began utilizing virtual cafes to reach more communities and need to embed the protective factors. So we reached out to all walks of life, because everyone needed, social connections, right? That social connections piece was critical. Concrete support in times of need, that is critical. Parental resilience and more. As so many communities and families of all ages and backgrounds felt the need to reach out, connect, share, vent, and build those village networks from the comfort of their own home, right? And there were 2 cohorts in 2021, one for the African-American community and another for Spanish-speaking communities. Cafes connected caregivers, elder caregivers, multi-generational families, kinship, foster parents, and faith-based communities as well. So I'm just going to share briefly just some of the testimony that was shared from some previous cafes. One of the participants said, this was educational. I learned a lot and I'm so glad that I came. Another said, I enjoyed the experience and I learned a lot about parenting. And it's good to experience different insights from other parents and other people. Another one said, nice bringing different parents together for a common goal. I received a lot of helpful information, met new people, and listened to people express their feelings. Another said, because of the community cafe, now I have an open mind. This was a beautiful event, very motivating. I'm inspired by everyone who attended. So I think that's the end of my part right here. Maraming salamat po inyong lahat. Thank you everyone for spending time with me today. Now I'm going to introduce you to this fabulous lady. I can't, sing enough praises about her. She's an SFG leadership team member, GA-PAC member, community partner, and so much more. She wears so many hats. I'm going to turn it over to Samantha Moore Valentine. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Well, as we've heard from Deborah Choicewood, Lindsay Dale, and Soledad Tillman, I am here to talk to you about how does all of this come together? Well, as you've already heard, the GA-PAC came together in 2019 for its first in-person meeting. And at that time, the vision, mission, and 2020 goals were developed. Since this time, we've continued to meet virtually. Just recently, we had our latest in-person meeting in which we discussed logistics, such as meeting frequency, goals, vision, and our mission statement. So, as you read along, you can see that our GPAC vision says specifically resilient communities where families are strengthened through authentic parent voice. Well, here's the action part of that, our mission. Parents and caregivers working with Georgia DFACs and our partners to build relationships with families, to develop parent leadership, and to advocate for parent-informed policy and practice. Well, what does that mean? Well, for the first goal, we want to have individuals such as ourselves participate in various campaigns and initiatives to raise awareness and promote the importance of collaborating with parents and other service providers, as well as key partners to strengthen and support families. We want to create supportive communities and promote innovation. We want to have innovative child abuse prevention strategies in place. But of course, that brings us to our goal number 2. Participate in training projects that help strengthen families. The only way you can learn about it is if you help. So we want to build supportive communities. We want to pull up our sleeves and get out there and help do the work. We want to increase awareness of the 5 protective factors that give parents what they need to parent efficiently. Our third goal is to work with the prevention and community support section to provide input into written materials. Well, hey, you get mail every day. You want it to be on a level of understanding where they understand what you have going on. But we also want to be able to promote additional resources and websites, and everyone is using social media. So we want to encourage parent input and ensure that all materials are parent friendly. Well, for our 4th goal, we want to build awareness about the role and value of parent voice across our local community, within our region, throughout our state, and amongst prevention service agencies everywhere. Next slide. So here's some examples of the value of parents. Well, as you heard before, GPAC members are strategic partners with the Prevention and Community Support section. We are strategic in terms of the exchange of information that takes place as we aim to achieve mutually beneficial results. In order to achieve the goals of a great PAC, we must honor the work of parents and the commitment of their time. Before starting various projects, we are asked if we would be interested in providing input on materials related to areas of primary or secondary prevention. Well, at that point, a list of parents interested are compiled, and then we're engaged in different ways. The members on the list are parents that have been personally impacted by or professionally working with families impacted. This is important so that our parents are only speaking or being requested to participate or advocate on topics in which we have knowledge about, to share on the subject. Once we have that group of members interested in helping, we set up a call and all of us get together and we brainstorm topics for preparation. Well, that's how the parent voice is included. Another way that value is added. Parents receive stipends or honorariums, which was mentioned before. But why is this? Well, they recognize the time individuals provide to participate. At a minimum, hotel accommodations, transportation, or childcare may be provided to members for their participation. While most may say, why aren't they reimbursed? Well, here's where the parent voice comes in. It's important to recognize that many individuals with lived experience actually live on a fixed income at times and may not have credit cards to make purchases in advance. So they took the time to make sure all of these steps and efforts were put in place to make sure we felt honored. Stipends and honorariums communicate respect and value. And from one member, we have a quote. I think it just kind of makes you feel like you're valuable. You know, often for parents and family members, folks always want you in the room, and professionals are there and they're getting paid. but you've not only taken a day off your job, but you've arranged childcare and all the other things that go along with being away from your home. So it's nice to know that they acknowledge and accept all that we bring to the table. Again, we truly appreciate and love when parent voice is at the forefront. Well, that brings us to the word primary and secondary prevention. Some don't even know what it means, but primary prevention activities are directed at the general population in an attempt to stop maltreatment before it occurs. So what does that look like as a parent on the Parent Advisory Council? That means public service announcements that encourage positive parenting. It looks like parent education programs and support groups that focused on child development, age-appropriate expectations, and the roles and responsibilities of parenting. It looks like family support and family strengthening programs that enhance the ability of families to access existing services. We want to promote positive interactions among family members and public awareness campaigns that provide information on how and where you can get help. Well, our secondary prevention activities are aimed with high risk focus, and they're offered to populations that have one or more risk factors associated with child maltreatment, such as poverty, parental substance abuse, young parental age, parental mental health concerns, and parental or child disabilities. Well, you're going to say, what does that look like as a parent in the work that you do? Well, some of the activities include parent education programs that are located in high schools, focus on teen parents, or substance abuse treatment programs for mothers and families with young children. It looks like parent support groups, again, to help deal with everyday stress and meet the challenges and responsibilities of parents. Home visiting programs that provide support and assistance to expecting and new mothers in their home. It looks like respite care for families that have children with special needs. It also shows up as family resource centers that offer information and referral services to families living in low-income neighborhoods. Altogether, we're able to provide feedback in program planning. We're able to use our parent expertise, and we're able to share our own personal stories, which makes our value so great. It's just awesome to know that all these things come together to help us help you. Next slide. Well, here's some things that we've been able to do just recently. Each year, we're always working on many different programs and innovative ways to help families. But here's a highlight. You can check out the list and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. Well, GA-PAC plays a vital role in ongoing work that is being done across the great state of the Peach. Parental involvement in decision-making is key to having policies and programs that support families and strengthen their needs. Therefore, the council is designed to ensure there are strong parent voices included in shaping programs, services, and strategies that result in better outcomes for children and families. So, as you can see, here's our partial list. It is much, much longer, but we've helped in various areas, such as reviewing funding proposals. We've presented at conferences and summits. We even help develop, participate, and provide input for media campaigns. And they serve on national committees. Some of us serve on national committees, such as the Birth and Foster Parent Partnership. And we are able to participate with our partners of Friends. Again, as we stated earlier, some of the ways we've been able to assist is with the CANAP, the Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Plan. It has been an honor to provide input and resources that families need. We also are making sure we streamline services so that there is a point person that direct communication can happen with. I'm so excited about all the things that are to come and the great work that Georgia Parent Advisory Council is able to do. Now, let's go to our next slide. As a representative for the state of Georgia on the ANPPC, which is the Alliance National Parent Partnership Council. Well, the Parent Partnership Council is an advisory group to the Alliance and Children's Trust Funds. The co-chairs of the ANPPC serve on the Alliance board. Their work aligns with the Alliance's strategy and their strategic plan and priorities. They work to raise awareness about the Alliance and its mission to strengthen all families, parents, and communities from a prevention point of view. We work as a parent leaders in a small collective group in a virtual environment, and our work supports and we align with the strategic plan. We work to raise awareness about prevention services. So when you ask, who are we? We're parents who raise our children and work in our communities so that we can shape local and state policies and procedures and help our peer networks of parents find their voice and purposes, so that families can realize they are part of the work happening in communities, and leaders will be able to effectively engage with families so that policies and procedures will have a strength-based lens and come from a solid understanding of the families it supports, so that our state Children's Trust Fund can have an inside ear and easy access to information affecting the policies and work they support, so that our state and Children's Trust Fund can effectively network and share at the annual meeting, and the ANPPC can create tools for families and be a resource for the Children's Trust Fund network, so that the Alliance can be the go-to resource and hub of information and resources for prevention of child abuse and neglect, so that overall we can strengthen families and reduce incidents of child abuse and neglect. Next slide. Now, how does this work coincide with strengthening families? Well, as part of the leadership team embodies the SFG mission of utilizing the protective factors framework. I know you guys have heard that more than once. Protective factors framework. It is so important that we make sure all programs and services know what this entails. The leadership provides direction and guidance by protective factors in all areas of related work. And here's some ways we do that. We do that through policy and system changes. We do that through data-driven decision-making. We do that through integration and prioritization, resource identification and leverage. We do that through coordination and collaboration with similar state efforts. So here are a few ways I personally am able to contribute to the work of SFG. Earlier this year, we had our ad hoc committee, which was responsible for making edits to our community cafe manual. It was a great experience because I've actually been an active participant in the community and parent cafes. It made a difference, providing that value and that input so that this manual will be a living document that helps support our local community. I've also become a community cafe trainer. Next, one of our next committees is the evaluation committee. Well, it is exactly what it says it is, evaluation. We develop and recommend evaluation strategies to support the SFG strategic plan. Well, you can't develop anything if you don't oversee it. So we oversee implementation of the approved evaluation plan, and then we offer perspective to the leadership team on the implications of the evaluation outcomes. Those outcomes come from webinars, meetings, information that is shared with each of us every time we have a webinar or we collect a poll. We want to know what these state policies and systems and parent and partner roles are so that we can make sure that programming meets the needs of all. We also work together to create stakeholder communications. And as a parent, you are our number one stakeholder. One of our other committees is the Strategic Outreach Committee. I serve as the co-chair for the Outreach Committee, and we have developed and coordinate marketing, and outreach activities that promote SFG and the 5 protective factors. We also do collaboration to make sure we embed the 5 protective factors within partner organizations, and we identify new innovative partners every year. For our latest upcoming project, we have the Protective Factors Outreach Opportunity, which is led by Soledad Tillman, and I'm so excited to engage communities that may not traditionally have a voice. I've also been able to be a panelist for QCC, which is Quality Childcare, and I assist as a decal ambassador, again, spreading the word, telling people what is available for them. And Parent Nation. Parent Nation is a wonderful book, and I've been able to be a panelist to help parents understand what happened to them, as well as be a part of the Parent Nation. Again, as we come to a close, I want you to know and remember what GA-PAC is. We are ready. GA-PAC is respected by other PAC members and the organization staff. We have the skills to execute the mission and vision of the PAC. We are accountable for the PAC, the structure, the activities, and leading, supporting, and assisting with PAC goals. GA-PAC members have a drive, and we are well connected with the help of our staff liaison to others. We are inspirational and we set examples and the roles and responsibilities of a PAC. From your local book club to the WIC office, we are here and we are ready to support and hear you. Thank you so much for being here today. Should you need help in your local community, it's only a click away. Make sure you go to findhelpgeorgia.org. We also have our number, which is 1-800-244-5373. It's an invaluable resource for Georgia families and communities. It's formerly known as Aunt Bertha. Seekers and providers of help are able to utilize this tool at no cost at all. This unique platform allows individuals and organizations to procure information via the website, phone, or the app. Find Help Georgia is also able to translate for users in many languages. The Find Help Georgia app is a critical component for those experiencing domestic violence. Those families and individuals facing dire circumstances or harm may not always have the luxury to call for help. As a result, the Find Help Georgia app can potentially help save many lives, children, and family throughout Georgia. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much, Samantha. You can see why she's involved in so many things, because she does such a great job of representing the PAC and representing our section. So I don't see any questions in the Q&A section. Did anybody have any questions for us? Well, it looks like we only have 1 minute. If you can quickly type, we'll answer a question. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over to Soli to close us out.
Again, thank you everyone for joining our workshop today. We hope that you enjoyed it. And thank you for attending the Prevention for Child Abuse and Neglect Conference for this year. And continue doing what you're doing to strengthen families and children throughout the state of Georgia, and continue being the village. Be the village. And I'll leave you with those powerful words. Thank you so much.